Hello, everybody. Thanks very much indeed for joining us here at the Lausitzring for the first free practice session. The first time the DTM cars are heading out onto the track over what's going to be a busy and lively 3 days here. The second weekend of the 2022 season. A few weeks ago, we're at Portimao for the first time in Portugal, and two different race winners. And now we come to the first German round of this 8-weekend series for rounds 3 and 4, coming up on Saturday and Sunday, respectively. But first of all, here on Friday, we have two 45-minute free practice sessions in which the drivers and the teams will have a chance to get used to the setup, try some different things out with the cars, get used to the conditions, and try to get the car set up not just for a quick one-lap run in the all-important 20-minute qualifying sessions, but also, of course, to get the race distance settings of the cars, the tyres, the suspension, and to get all of that worked out in two 45-minute periods is quite tough for the teams and for the drivers, only some of whom have got previous experience here at the Lausitzring. My name's Chris Hartley. I'll be talking you through all the action this weekend, and I'm in one of, well, just about the highest commentary boxes on the calendar, I think, right at the top of this huge grandstand which overlooks the garages that you're now seeing, are pretty much opposite that car, the SSR performance car, but way above it, this huge grandstand which overlooks the start-finish line here at the Lausitzring, which, when it's full, has a capacity of 120,000 people at the circuit. The grandstand, this one grandstand, can hold 25,000, but it's a huge venue, this, the Lausitzring. We're in the Brandenburg region, to the east of Germany, pretty close to the border with the Czech Republic and Poland, and about 135 kilometres away from Berlin. The nearest big city is Dresden, which is only about 35 minutes drive away, and about 60 kilometres on the road. A couple of local teams here this weekend. One of them comes from Dresden, which is Jens Voigt's T3 Motorsport team, running the Lamborghinis of Niki Tim, coming into the championship for the first time this season, and returning to the championship for a second year in DTM, Esme Hawkey. And 50 guests here this weekend, including some potential new sponsors for the T3 Motorsport team, here recently testing as well. So they'll be up for a big weekend after what certainly for Niki Tim was competitive in terms of the car at Portimao, but the results didn't come his way, unfortunately. Well, they went really well in the first half of the first race until bad fortune struck. And the other team that would consider this its home circuit is Muka Motorsport, Peter Muka's team. They're based in Berlin, so it's not exactly up the road. It's about a 90-minute drive to Berlin Airport from the circuit, but it's very much considered their local circuit. They won here with Lucas Auer back in 2016, and Peter Muka, who's a racing person through and through, 75 years old these days, but former racer himself, and busy running his Muka Motorsport team, not just in DTM, but a considerable career in single-seater and victories in Formula 3 categories and Formula 4 categories as well. And they're also running a couple of cars in the DTM Trophy this weekend. And in the DTM Classic, they've got two cars. There is Tommy Preining in the Goose Team Bernhard car, the sole car in that team, but one of three Porsches that we've got here competing in what's now a 6-brand series this year. 6 different brands competing in the championship. It's great to see Porsches in. We had a guest appearance for Porsche last year with Michael Ammermuller at the Nürburgring, but for the first time properly, the first season properly, the Porsches are in. 3 of them, 4-litre flat-6 engines that power the Porsches, and do about 193 miles an hour and 520 brake horsepower they have. Kelvin Van Der Linde, who is still with BMW, but has switched teams this season and looked very much at home with his new team, Schubert Motorsport. Had a chat with him at Portimao, and he was very relaxed and looking very positive for the year ahead. Ferrari, of course, coming back for their second season in the championship. Their two 3.9-litre V8 turbo powered cars, run and prepared by AF Corsa. And this weekend, they will be hoping to capitalise upon the excellent efforts that Felipe Ferraga put together, particularly in that second race. He's in the number 74 Red Bull liveried AF Corsa Ferrari, which you can see there at the front of the queue, ready to go out. And the number 37 AlphaTauri AF Corsa car, which was driven at Portimao by the multiple 7-time World Rally champion Sebastian Loeb. back is the regular driver for this season, which is Nick Cassidy, who made his DTM debut in that dramatic season finale last year at the Lausitzring, and he'll be quick this year. He's got to miss a couple of rounds, as he did at Portimao, because of his Formula E duties. He's racing the Formula E Championship again this season, the New Zealander, but he is a driver with huge experience and huge talent, and there he is, Nick Cassidy, heading out onto the Lausitzring. So welcome back to DTM, Nick. We've also got Mercedes with 8 cars, 6.2 litre V8s. We've got 6 Audis, 5.2 litre V10s that power them along, about 585 brake horsepower with the new upgraded Evo 2 versions of the cars. We've got 6 Lamborghinis in total this season, which have been going rather well so far. 4 BMWs, 3 Porsches and 2 Ferraris, and drivers from no fewer than 15 different countries, which is another record that DTM have set this year. The other one being 29 cars in the field, which is the highest entry, the highest grids that we've had since the championship was rebranded. And a huge talent pool that we've got in the field as well, as the cars head out onto this Lausitzring circuit. And something that is back for 2022, which was extremely popular last year, is the use of turn 1 at the banking. Now, this is a tri-oval circuit and a 3-cornered outer perimeter onto which the cars run at times during the course of their lap here in the DTM. It's a 4.6 kilometre long course, but the big star of the lap is turn 1, which uses that banking. So in previous years they turned off, they go along the main start-finish straight along the banking, but they turned off and used the chicane and used the infield section before they got to turn 1, and then rejoined and tuck on the second of the turns. Oh, sorry, the third of the turns coming out of the final turn, but they don't do that now. They use all of turn 1, and that is taken at about 250 kilometres an hour, 155 mile an hour banked corner. Turn 1, powered by Auto Hero this weekend. And the drivers loved it last year. Pretty scary, but it really does test their mettle, and it gave us some spectacular action. What it does give you is that huge run from the start-finish line through turn 1 down towards the first big braking zone at turn 2.
How is the track? It's dirty. Question.
It looks quite okay.
Team radio from Nico Müller, second in the championship after winning race 2 at Portimao. Was unlucky in race 1, but he looked on the pace all weekend long. He's been on the pace all the way through pre-season testing, and Team Rosberg have worked incredibly hard to get the setup right this year. And we've gone the wrong way with the setup last year by their own admission. Generally uncompetitive last year, apart from the very first weekend at Monza where Nico got onto the podium, got a second place finish. Other than that, it was really tough going for them, including here at the Lausitzring. But they look a different team. They look back to their championship winning best now. And Nico Müller looking for his first driver's title this year, having twice been a runner-up in recent seasons in 2020 and 2019. 22 years old now, the Lausitzring. This high-speed tri-oval track, which was really created for use in the kart series, IndyCar racing. It's 2001 and 2002 and 2003 it was used for the American series. But it's long since been a home for the DTM, a regular on the calendar. So 45 minutes of free practice, various regulations, new regulations, which we talked about that have been brought into play for this season. And some of them relating to tyres in free practice. But one key rule for free practice today is that every driver has to complete at least 50% of the available track time in each of the free practice sessions in the right car. So they can't just dibble and do a few laps here and there, which is what we saw a couple of times in some free practice sessions last year. Drivers were opting to save tyres. They have to go out now and do at least half the session, which is good for us because it means we get to see more and more cars out on circuit on a regular basis. Rene Rast had a difficult weekend on his return to the DTM at Portimao. Involved in a tangle on the restart, which several drivers got caught up in the first race. So damage to the car and a non-finish in that one. And he couldn't get into the points in race 2 either. 12th place so far, the best for the 3-time champion, but you can't keep a good man down for long, and I'm sure he's going to be right back up there this weekend.
3 more laps.
Sets the early benchmark time. René Rast in the team Abt Audi, 1 minute 34.168 seconds, which is really 9/10 of a second quicker than his teammate Kelvin Van Der Linde, who's the driver third in the championship last year. And Laurens Vanthoor and Dennis Olsen in the two SSR Performance Porsches, which raced well but didn't qualify very well at Portimao. They're third and fourth at the moment, both in the low 1 minute 35s. But Michael Grenier, the Canadian driver, who really impressed, particularly in the first qualifying session at Portimao. He's put his Mercedes AMG second in the times at the moment, 1 minute 34.420. Mercedes, the only brand which runs the Mercedes AMG, which is the only brand that runs the Scheffler Paravan steering, electronic steering system. As Nico Muller looks like he's about to go to the top of the times now, and we've got a couple of build-up laps. Through he goes, 1:33.176 seconds for Nico, quickest in all three sectors of the lap as well. Just to break down the sectors, and I'm talking about sector times, the lap is split into three timelines. Sector 1, from the beginning of the lap, takes in that flat-out turn 1 banking and ends at the end of the back straight, just before they turn off the tri-oval, just before they get to turn 2. So that first sector is the shortest in terms of time. Nico Muller has just done it in 19.7 seconds. Then the second sector takes in, where they turn off the tri-oval, they go left through turn 3, straight into a right at turn, straight left into turn 2, straight to a right at turn 3, and then an arcing hairpin turn 4, which leads them onto the middle straight. That then leads to another hairpin, but turning right this time through turn 5. And at the end of the straight, between turns 5 and 6 is where sector 2 ends. And that's double the length of the first sector. That's around about 38.5 seconds. And then turn 3 takes in the left at 6, the kink at turn 7, turning right, sharp right-left turns at 8 and 9, and then the final turn back onto the oval, which you can see the distance there, turn 10.
Okay, copy that.
Sheldon Van Der Linde going well. He set the second best time, 4/10 down, third best time now, because Dennis Olsen has just put the SSR Performance Porsche to the very top of the times. 1 minute 33.113, not for long. Nico Muller is right behind him on track. It goes even quicker, 1:33.011. So, as you'd expect at this juncture, the track is gripping up a little bit now. We've had a couple of sessions already for the support series, so they've laid a bit of rubber down. The circuit isn't used that often for racing these days, so take a little bit of time to rubber up. It's going to be a hot day. There are potential thunderstorms this afternoon in the weather report that I looked at last night, but at the moment it's a lovely day. It's just under 23 degrees Celsius. Track temperature is already high at 34.4 degrees. Right, René Rast is about to put his best lap of the session in. That's good enough for 5th place so far. René, 1:33.705. So now you've got the top 6 cars covered by 7/10 of a second. Not everybody has yet set a flying lap. Ricardo Feller, Marco Wittmann, Maximilian Buch, Philip Eng, Esme Hawkey, Nick Cassidy, Marius Zug, Felipe Ferraga and Clement Schmidt have all been onto the circuit but haven't yet completed a full lap. They've gone straight back into the pits each time. So still more to come. Another driver that's just headed for the pits is Lucas Auer, third in the championship, the winner of the first race, but problem with the car after the pit stops in race 2, when it was going well, meant that he didn't record any points in that second race, and that was kind of typical really. So Lucas Stoltz sets the very quickest first sector time in that shortest sector. He's off to a good start, Luca, in Mercedes. But it's pretty typical with drivers, most of them having one good race and one bad race at Portimao, and I wonder if that might be the theme of the year, and consistency could be key this year, really could, with 29 very competitive drivers out there. The one that did have a consistent weekend was Mirko Bortolotti with 2 third-place finishes, and it's the Lamborghini driver, factory driver. That's the Grasser Racing team, tops the championship. He's got 35 points from Portimao, 28 points for Nico Muller, who's second in the championship despite not getting a single point in race 1. Won race 2, did well in qualifying as well, pole position, and so he's only 7 points behind the championship leader, and 2 points behind Nico Muller is Lucas Auer, third in the championship on 26, and again won one race, didn't finish in the points in the other, like Nico Muller. Felipe Ferraga, fourth in the championship, non-finishing one race, second place in the other. Kelvin Van Der Linde, Sheldon Van Der Linde's brother, just saw Sheldon in the shot there, he did have a consistent weekend. without getting on the podium, a 4th and a 6th. And those sorts of results with the odd win might just set you up for championship success this year. Had to work hard to come through the field in that first race to get his 4th place finish, but it was a very, very good drive. So Nico Müller, top of the times, 1 minute 32.628. He's got nearly half a second advantage now, as you can see from the tower graphic on the left-hand side of your picture. Plenty of drivers setting personal best sector times at the moment, including Kelvin Van Der Linde, who crosses the line, personal best in sector 1 and 3 to get himself up to 3rd place. Tommy Preining, one of the drivers that's just improved as well, the Austrian into 7th place. And Marco Wittmann puts himself into the top 10 as well in the BMW. Now, Kelvin Van Der Linde on another quick lap here. Started this one really well. The absolute best first sector time of 19.5 seconds. Now, he's the shortest sector. It's the really sectors 2 and 3 you've got to get absolutely right to nail the lap. But he's obviously brave through turn 1, powered by Auto Hero, isn't it, at 250 kilometres an hour, and kept his foot in. So, it's a 10th up through that first sector. Can he keep the pace through the middle sector? Should be negotiating right about now. He's just coming out of turn 5, so Kelvin Van Der Linde in a few seconds will cross the trigger at the end of sector 2, and we'll see what his second sector time is like. It's a 39.1, so he's not quick in the middle sector, more than half a second down. So the lap started well, but yeah, coming up to traffic now as well, so I think that probably is going to be that for the lap. Esteban Mutu's getting used to life as a BMW driver in his second season of the DTM, having raced the Lamborghini with T3 Motorsport last year. And he's with Volkenhorst now, the teammate to two-time champion Marco Wittmann. He's just about to put potentially his best lap of the session in so far. The young Belgian in 18th place. Very different car to get used to, new team, new teammate. But very talented and exciting driver to watch he was last year. So we'll see how he gets on this lap. He's currently back in 18th place. Still waiting for a few drivers to set a proper lap time yet, including Ricardo Feller. He's just gone through, actually. His first attempt puts him 16th, but there's more to come from Ricardo. Max Buch, Philippe Cassidy, Marius Sugg and Felipe Ferraga yet to set a proper lap time. Been out, but not been doing full laps yet. Esme Hawkey has started to circulate now, starting to creep up the leaderboard there, and then is a BMW coming through. Esteban Mut has indeed improved, but only up to 17th place. Best of 134.952. It's about 6/10 of a second away from the best. Right, turn 1, top performance there. You could see the speeds mouth-watering through that banked turn at turn 1. Huge bravery required there. No grass on the exit, no runoff area, no gravel trap. Just a wall, just a big concrete wall if you get it wrong. But last year, Esme Hawkey had a big moment there with the T3 Motorsport Lamborghini. So easy to get it slightly wrong. The balance of the car is not right as well. A few bumps through there as well. Drivers really have to hold their breath and hang on to the wheel through there. Just commit to it. And careful on the steering wheel, because the slightest movement on the steering wheel at those speeds unsettles the car. And you can very easily snap oversteer, and then you are headed potentially the back end of the car for that wall on the outside. Lucas Stoltz, one of the drivers, you can see from the clock at the bottom of the screen there, is out there trying to improve his time, currently 5th quickest. And we've got Audi, Porsche, BMW as the top 3 at the moment, which shows balance of performance seems to be, as it was at Portimao, working pretty well. And BMW, Marco Wittmann, who's got up to 4th place now, and Lucas Stoltz, the best of the Mercedes AMGs, in 5th place currently, number 4 machine. Another one that had one good race and one bad race at Portimao. Got his maiden podium. Had a guest appearance one weekend last season, but this is his first full campaign, Lucas Stoltz, the quiet German though. Already a very competitive driver. As Marco Wittmann, 19.404, that's a 10th up on Kelvin Van Der Linde's best first sector time. So good start to the lap, but a 39.2 is not a quick middle sector, so it's a second down in the middle sector. So I suspect sort of carrying on the end of one lap, but then backs it off and is probably, I would suspect now, headed for the pits. Ricardo Feller is trying to put some laps together now. He's been creeping up the order, so he's up to 9th place now. Ricciardo in the Audi R8, the Abt Sportsline car. Still only a young driver. One of those drivers that seems to have been around for quite a while, but he's only 21 still. He was only 16 when he made his GT3 debut. And last year won the ADAC, the German GT Masters Championship, alongside Christopher Mies in an Audi. A couple of wins at Zandvoort and at the Nürburgring. He competed as well last year in the GT World Challenge Europe Sprint. And he's had a few seasons in ADAC GT Masters prior to that, pretty successfully so. He was actually the youngest driver in the series history when he hit the ground running, age 16 back in 2017. And that year was also competing in the German Formula 4 Championship, the ADAC Formula 4 Championship, with Peter Muka's team, Muka Motorsport. Former Swiss Karting Championship runner-up in the 2012 Karting Championship. Good to see Maro Engel back in the DTM as well. 36-year-olds from Munich back in the DTM for the first time since 2017, having spent the last few years focusing on GT racing in Blancpain, ADAC GT Masters and the GT World Challenge, in which in all 3 championships he's finished in the top 3, runner-up in the GT World Challenge Europe Sprint Cup last year with TopSport. So he's looking to improve at the moment. We're watching Maro now, whose best lap time thus far has got him 7th place, a 1:33.701. Not that quick through the first sector, though. It was half a second down on the very best time. We've had green sector times in sectors 1 and 2 for Michael Grenier. So Grenier now already in 6th place, looking like he potentially could improve here. If we can find a 10th or 2 and get himself up into the top 4 or 5. Michael Grenier, waiting for him to come through. He's about to cross the line, goes underneath the commentary box window. And it's a 1:33.33, which is good enough to put him all the way up to 2nd place. The reason being a really, really good final sector. All 3 were personal best sectors, but a 34.498 wasn't quite the absolute best 3rd sector, but it was really close to it. As we look large and mighty now with his new team, his new livery for the year with the Paul sponsorship, the blue and white sponsorship on the car. Good first sector, but the 2nd sector is down, so Arjun is not going to be improving here. He was really quick on his first competitive runs at the Lausitzring last year. He really did have an excellent second half of the season, a podium finishing out in the DTM. In the middle of the field for both of the races at Portimao. But he will be competitive this year. Got himself up to 17th place at the moment. Nico Muller, who's quickest in the session, has just gone back out on track, and Lucas Auer has popped himself up to 2nd place now. So suddenly the Mercedes starting to rise up through the order, and Lucas Auer got his 8th career victory at Portimao, in 2nd place now with Team Winward. One of the few drivers who's back with the same car and the same team as with which he competed last year. And there is the reigning champion, Maximilian Gutz. He got his first ever DTM win here last season. And wins 2 and 3 would come in even more dramatic style at the Lausitzring, which was what took him to the championship title in the end. The 36-year-old defending champion, now with Team Winward, having won the championship last year with Team HRT. We look at Felipe Ferraga, who's still not been very busy, and this is a bit of a worry now, because he sat in the car ready to go, but other than a couple of recce laps, he hasn't been out at all yet. So is there an issue with the car that they're trying to work on? Looks like they're about to send him out. Comes off the jacks, and the 26-year-old Brazilian, being wheeled out of the garage now. So hopefully we're going to see, but we haven't seen anything yet from either of the Ferraris. Been on the track, haven't done a full lap. But Felipe is going out now, an LMP3 class winner at Daytona, the 24-hour race, one of the great 24-hour races earlier this year. A former Brazilian Stock Car Series champion. Seconds in race 2 at Portimao. Kept Nico Muller honest for most of the race. Only the last few laps where he decided he hadn't quite got the pace to be able to match the Swiss driver. It was a very strong 2nd place finish. His best grid so far, qualified in 3rd. Got unlucky on the restart in race 1. So he's heading out now. Most of the cars on track, well, 2/3 of the field on the track. Marco Wittmann, Lucas Stoltz, Ricardo Feller, Philipp Eng, Kelvin Van Der Linde, Mirko Bortolotti, the championship leader, Esme Hawkey and Alessia De Leyda are all in the pits. Everybody else are out there on track now. Nicky Tim and Rolf Inischen have both gone out onto the circuit. I think I'm right saying Rolf is the only driver so far that has the dubious honour of 2 non-finishes to his name. Ironically, it was Rolf's retirement from race 1 which brought about the safety car, which probably cost Mirko Bortolotti a race win, because the car stuttered off the line of the rolling start, and that's where he dropped. Well, he dropped to 7th place at one point, fought back for a podium, but up until that point he'd been looking very comfortable for a race win. Esteban Moot flashes the lights on the Volkenhorst BMW. It's not that quick in the middle sector again. 39.3, should be looking at mid-38s through the second sector. So this lap I don't think it's going to come to much. David Schumacher though, he's on for a personal best lap. Sectors 1 and 2, sending his best time so far. He's already doing a good job as well. He's already in the middle of the order in 15th place, bearing in mind he's new to GT3 racing, new to DTM. Complete single-seater background up to this point. In the race for the last couple of years in the FIA Formula 3 Championship. But David Schumacher, team win with Mercedes, looking like he's going to improve his time. 1:33.947 is his best so far. That was on the previous lap, and he's about to come through, and this should be a fair bit quicker. Yes, 6th place for David Schumacher. Excellent effort. There he is in the white, blue and yellow number 27 machine, and that is a fine effort from Schumacher. I've been impressed with him so far. Briefly led, didn't he, at Portimao, as he opted to pit late in the race. This was a nice moment for him, but certainly he's been holding his own so far this season, I reckon. Doing a good job, the 20-year-old. Actually born in Austria, in Salzburg, but it's German national, son of Ralf Schumacher, who had 180 Grand Prix starts in Formula 1 and raced in DTM for a number of years, between 2008 and 2012. Good season last year for David in the Formula 3 Championship, which is ultra-competitive, as you well know. He finished in 11th place. Got a win at the Red Bull Ring at Spielberg, and 2nd place finish at Barcelona as well in the Spanish round of the championship. And there he is, up in 6th place. So his time is a 1:33.327. Done a personal best through the first sector on this lap as well. Got nothing in front of him, so a clear track for the Mercedes. And again, looks like he's pushing on as he works his way into turns 8 and 9. We switch now to Laurens Vanthoor, who's gone to the top of the times meanwhile, though, with a 1:32.579 ahead of Nico Müller. He's just put in a 1:32.8, which is pretty good, but a couple of tenths away from his best for Nico Müller. That lap would have been good enough for 3rd place, and Müller's got more than one quick lap to his name. But it's Laurens Vanthoor that has now gone to the top of the times in this free practice session. You're watching him now in the 4-litre flat 6. 520 brake horsepower Porsche 911 GT3 Team SSR Performance Squad. He's 30 years old now, Porsche Works driver. Quite late before he knew he was going to get to compete in the DTM, but was very happy about it, seeing how competitive the field is. He goes through underneath the commentary box window, heading into turn 1, powered by Auto Hero, at around about 250 kilometres an hour. And Nico Müller has set the absolute best first sector time meanwhile. Riding on board with him now, 19.33. It's only 100th quicker than the previous best, but it looks like he means business on this lap to try and get himself back to the top of the times. There's only 49 thousandths of a second between Laurens Vanthoor in the Porsche and Nico Müller in the Audi. Almost a dummy run this for the first qualifying session tomorrow morning. Some really quick lap times being put together. So Nico 38.6 is okay, but not mega through the middle sector. Swings out now through turn 10, just clicks the inside curve. You can see he's already over 200 kilometres per hour. Over the line he will go. 1:32.57, back to the top of the times for Nico by just 8 thousandths of a second. And here you go, hold your breath through turn 1. Listen to the engine note. Look how close to the wall on the outside he gets. Over the line, and eventually now he'll hit the brakes. Bit of stress on the engine, that, isn't it? It's a long way from the exit to turn 10 before you properly hit the brakes at turn number 2. Replay of David Schumacher getting a bit loose back end, just wagging the tail of the Mercedes, but he caught it well. And he's still up there in 6th place. Well, phenomenal onboard that from Nico Müller through turn 1, wasn't it? The man who is now quickest in the session, but only just. And Laurens Vanthoor's teammate Dennis Olsen has come up to 3rd place in this session as well with a 1:32.820. Nick Cassidy out on track. Felipe Ferraga we saw going out. They've actually, everybody now has completed a lap time, although Felipe is only 26. Nick is at the moment only in 28th position. But with both of them late on parade, I wonder if it's maybe a deliberate thing. You've got to get the laps in there, remember. Got to complete the 50% of the available time across the 2 practice sessions. They might have to be really busy in practice 2 to make up for this, but Nick Cassidy and Felipe Ferraga both out on track. Fraga's just gone through the line. That was Esme Orki in the black T3 Motorsport Lamborghini just behind. Nico Müller still pushing on, a 1:32.4 on that lap. He's got back behind Laurens Vanthoor now by 53 thousandths of a second. So they exchanged the top position in free practice 1 again. Vanthoor 1:32.377 and Müller 1:32.430. Max Buch has just improved that to 8th place as well with a good effort. And there is Nico Müller with several really quick laps, going for a slightly longer run now, but not losing any pace really. This is 3rd or 4th quick lap now, and that was his last one was his best one of the session. Right, Felipe Ferraga 19.8 through the 1st sector. It's a personal best. That doesn't tell us much because he's not really done many laps, but he's half a second down in that 1st sector alone, so still not flying yet. David Schumacher's done a personal best through sector 1, but that's not particularly quick either, and Ferraga is slow through sector 2. So it's not going to be a mega lap at all, this from Felipe. Marco Wittmann 19.6, pretty quick through the 1st sector. So now it's Laurens Vanthoor quickest in the Porsche by 53 thousandths of a second from Nico Müller. They've traded the top position a couple of times already. They're both the class of the field at the moment in terms of outright pace, because there's a 0.4 of a second gap back then to Dennis Olsen and the second of the SSR Performance Porsches in 3rd. Michael Grenier has got himself up to 4th place. He's just gone into the pits, and it's the first of 3 Mercedes: Grenier, Auer and Schumacher, 4th, 5th and 6th. 1:32.9s for Grenier and Auer, only 30 thousandths of a second between them, and a 1:33.1 for Schumacher. Kelvin Van Der Linde in the BMW next in 7th place. He's in the pits. Maximilian Buch is in 8th place. Marco Wittmann 9th, and Lucas Stoltz currently in 10th place. 9/10 of a second covering the top 8. You feel the gaps will probably get smaller once they all start to really go for it in qualifying trim. You can see Dennis Olsen now in his 2nd weekend as a DTM driver. His best time so far, 1:32.8, as I say, just under half a second away from the best. A longer run now, seeing how the tyres hold up at 1:33.1 seconds on that lap. So in terms of tyres this year in free practice, they get an extra set this year compared to 2021 season. So for the 2nd and every subsequent DTM event in which every driver competes, they get 4 sets of new tyres, which they can run for free practice, qualifying and the races. So 4 sets of new tyres for 2 free practice sessions, 2 qualifying sessions and 2 races. They're still fairly limited, but it was 3 sets previously. But one of those 4 sets they have to use in free practice. So by the time you get to Saturday and the 2 qualifying sessions and 2 races to come, you have only got 3 sets of brand new slick tyres. Michelin S8M tyres, which they run, which is a medium compound slick tyre that they run. The top 2 have both gone into the pits now, Vanthoor and Müller. Olsen, we know, is out on track. Grenier in 4th place, he's out on track. So too is Auer. Schumacher in 6th place, has just got into the pits though. The Arjun Mining down below into the pits. Pulled in right behind Laurens Vanthoor. Max Buch looks like he's about to head back out onto the circuit. And Nico Müller is pushing on again. Absolute best in sector 1, absolute best in sector 2 on his previous lap. but then it slowed up through the third sector, but he's still got more pace in that car potentially, even though he's run around a few laps. So the lap in the end backed off to a 1 minute 40, but for the first 2/3 of the lap, he was on for probably a 1 minute 32.2 or 3. So about half the field out on track. There is Sergeant Marty, who was only briefly in the pits. First ever Indian racer in DTM, first Indian racer to get a podium finish as well. His first season, the 2021 season. Very consistent in the second half of the year, finishing 12th place in the championship in the end. Got a second place finish at the Norris Ring. Here at the Lausitzring last year, you may remember, we had a win for Philip Ellis in his Mercedes in race 1. And in race 2, it was the same, Maximilian Gutz got his first ever DTM race victory. To add to the podium finish he picked up in the first round at Monza. The Ferrari was quick here. Liam Lawson had 2 second-place finishes last year. Kelvin Van Der Linde, a 3rd and a 4th, but remember he was on course for a race victory the first race. Then coming out of turn 1, the car stuttered and faltered. He had to reset the car and lost several positions while that was happening. So could have been better for Kelvin Van Der Linde, and should be another one challenging for the race victory. Arjun Miney here last year was very quick in the free practice sessions, and then in the race, in qualifying, he went well as well. Qualified 6th in, it was only his 3rd qualifying session at the time in DTM. Qualified in the top 10 in the second qualifying session, but the races unfortunately got tangled up in incidents. But I reckon he'll go well here. Only 22nd at the moment, but that's not to say that that's a worry, because you don't know what the teams are doing in terms of setup of the cars. They're trying different things out, trying the longer run pace, not necessarily going for out-and-out fast lap times, although clearly Laurens Vanthoor, Nico Müller have both been trying to do that. Watching Esteban Moot now, the Volkenhorst BMW, currently in 12th place, doing a pretty good job, 133.5. And not that far behind his esteemed teammates, Marco Wittmann, who's done a 133.370. I think it'll do Esteban Moot the world of good to be with an experienced team like Volkenhorst, but predominantly I think the big thing for him will be underneath the same garage roof as a 2-time champion, hugely experienced Marco Wittmann. Can only be a good thing for the development of Esteban Moot. Marco won the championship in 2014 and 2016, and 10 years ago now made his, well, more than 10 years ago, made his debut. Already had 10 seasons in the DTM. 2013 he first came into it after being a DTM development driver for a season for BMW. As, talking about BMW, Sheldon Van Der Linde for Schubert Motorsport goes 3rd quickest, 132.757. So now it is Porsche, Vanthoor, Audi, Müller, and BMW, Sheldon Van Der Linde, 1st, 2nd and 3rd. Another Porsche, Dennis Olsen in 4th place. Then 3 Mercedes, 5th, 6th and 7th, Grenier, Auer and Schumacher. The first of our Lamborghinis for GLT, the Grasser Racing team, is Mirko Bortolotti. So the multiple Blancpain championship winning team. And Mirko Bortolotti into the top 10 now in 8th place with a 133.293, still just under a second away from the best times. Max Buch, Marco Wittmann, the other drivers in the top 10. And in terms of the Ferraris, well, Nick Cassidy, who we just saw, he's still back in 27th place. 1 minute 35 is his best lap time, 2.6 seconds off the pace. So I suspect they are running through some systems with that car, not really going for quick lap times necessarily. And Felipe Ferraga is only a little bit quicker in 25th place at the moment. He's just gone back out on track, but he's only done 134.8. Here's Luigi Auer there, Lucas Auer, who, that's terrific first race at Portimao, lead the championship after the first round, a 27-year-old. 8th win in the DTM that was. Races 111 and 112 coming up for him in DTM, so he's one of the experienced old hands in DTM in terms of the championship, but in terms of GT3 cars, certainly not one of the most experienced drivers. When you're racing GT machinery in the DTM for the first time last season, he really did get to grips with it in the second half of the season. 5th in last year's championship was a fine effort, I thought. In the second half of the season, he was mega consistent. Got 2 wins at Assen at Hockenheim, was of course leading at the Lausitzring as well at the end of the season. Lest we forget, got a win here at the Lausitzring most recently in 2020, but when he was a BMW driver that season with Team RMR. Also won here in 2017 with Mercedes. What was his best season up until last year? 6th place in the DTM in 2017. And he got a win, as I say, in 2016, which was his first win in DTM. So there's fond memories of this circuit. At the time, racing with the local team, Schumacher Motorsport as well. So 3 of his 8 wins so far have come at this circuit. And we'll see if he can keep up the momentum that he clearly had in the opening weekend at Portimao. Last year at the Lausitzring, a pretty solid day, nothing spectacular, a 6th and a 9th in the 2 races. At the moment in this session, he's in 6th place with a 132.961, very close to the time of Michael Grenier, the Canadian driver. And Luki's Team Winward teammate, really impressing in his earlier laps. David Schumacher, 133.1, 2/10 of a second between the pair of them as the Austrian driver comes in. Car 6 is under investigation for pit lane speeding. That is Alessio De Lede is going to be looked at, and could be potentially a hefty fine heading his way for the Grasso Racing Team Italian former single-seater racer, raced in the FIA Formula 2 Championship last year, and a couple of seasons in F3, in the F3 Asian Championship. But they do have to be careful. There are quite a number of hefty fines that were dished out during the free practice sessions, qualifying sessions as well, during the course of Portimao, for all sorts of things like incorrect fire extinguisher fittings and incorrect balaclavas, pit lane speeding. Lots of hefty fines were being dished out by the race control team as they laid down the law, really, at the start of the season, as you'd expect them to do. The rules are the rules. Everybody knows where they are in the rule book. So, a spin for Asmi in the number 26 T3 Motorsport Lamborghini. Stranded out in the infield at the moment, and I think he's got the engine fired back up again. In a slightly precarious position there, though. So a yellow flag zone.
On the pit entry, I don't know how to get reverse gear.
Oh dear.
Okay, understood. Take your time. Let's try to go into reverse.
Tries to go in reverse, but I can't find reverse, she says. I can see that the commentary box window. She's just on the exit to turn 9, just before turn 10. She's not quite at the pit lane entry. Oh, in fact, she is. She's kind of off the track, isn't she? Yeah, she's just off the exit of turn 9, so just gone into the pit lane entry. So she's kind of out of the way of the session, but still in a bit of a precarious position there, and has oversteered into the corner by the looks of things. So Esme struggling to find reverse gear. So 6 minutes of the session to go. Maro Engel back out there on track, but nobody really flying at the moment in terms of out-and-out lap times, going for longer type runs now. I'll try and have a look at the analysis that we get back from the timing pages as well to see who looks good over a longer run. At the moment, the quickest driver out there is going to be, well, David Schumacher's gone into the pits. He did a 136 last time round. Esteban Mook did a 135, but has gone into the pits as well. So Muller's just gone back out. We've got Grenier's last lap was a 133.6. He is out on track. So Grenier's still putting some quick lap times in. Now Esme Hawkey's got going again. So there she is, just coming into the pit lane, which is a relief. So in she comes, just out of the reigning champion, Maximilian Gurtz. Car should be fine. Frustrating couple of minutes there for Esme. She couldn't get the car back to the pits as she wanted to. Hopefully I'll just be able to get her out in time for another quick lap or two. She comes into the T3 Motorsports pit box. Huge wide pits here, of course, as well, because of the nature of the circuit and what it was designed for, so plenty of room for the teams to work in. And T3 Motorsport, Jens Voigt's team, hoping for good things this weekend with all those guests here. Nicky Tim's not been blisteringly quick as yet, but it's not about being quick in free practice. You've got to be quick in qualifying. You've got to get the car set up in free practice. He's 23rd at the moment with a 1:34.0, just about 1.6 seconds off the best pace that we've seen. It's getting busier on track now in the last 5 minutes of the session. We've got Laurens Vanthoor and Nico Muller, the top two, are back out on track. Kelvin Van Der Linde, who is third. Dennis Olsen, who is fourth, have just rejoined the circuit. Mikael Grenier, who's fifth, is still circulating. And then we've got Lucas Auer, sixth quickest, has just gone back out onto the track. Ricardo Feller has got himself up to 7th place now. His last lap was his best, in the 1:32.964, only 0.003 of a second away from Lucas Auer. So actually, of the top 10, only David Schumacher in the pits currently, driver in 8th fastest. Bortolotti and Buch are both recently headed back out onto the track as well. So I might see one last blast here. That's Kelvin Van Der Linde heading over the start-finish line, just in front of Mirko Bortolotti there, the championship leader who you're looking at now, heading around turn 1, powered by Auto Hero. All looks fairly sedate when you look at it from that angle, but when you get the onboard pictures, you really get a sense for how brave, how accurate these drivers have to be through that turn. It's a huge challenge, but that's what racing drivers like, quick, brave corners. So the 32-year-old from Trento, Mirko Bortolotti, trying to push himself up the order a little bit here. He's in 10th place now. Wanting to be in the DTM for a long time. He's been following the DTM since he was a little kid. At one point, he had a test drive for Williams Formula 1 team 10 years ago now, back in 2011, and tested a Ferrari in 2008, but he never quite made it to Formula 1. Well, he's a hugely talented driver, as is this man with the onboard camera. Nico Muller, who's gone absolute best in the middle sector now with a 38.0. That is really quick middle sector. 19.7 through the first sector, so he's about 3/4 tenths down in the first sector. So overall, I'm not sure he's going to improve his best lap time, but it should be in the 1:32s this, which is still pretty competitive. Let's see. Nico heads for the line, goes through, and a 1:32.24, really good final sector. Personal best in that final sector. I wasn't expecting him to improve with that time that he lost through the first sector, but it just shows you get the infield right, you can get the lap right. He's gone back to the top of the times, 1:32.249. Really good lap, despite being 4 tenths down through that first sector. It's always a compromise with the setup, but it really is a compromise with what you do here, because you've got these hugely quick sections at the start and the end of the lap on the tri-oval, but then you have got quite a twisty infield. And that really is where all the time is made up, the traction coming out of these hairpins. And these tight corners, these left-right sequences through the infield in the middle of the tri-oval, that's where the big time can be made and won. So you might perhaps, as they've done with the setup for Nico, sacrifice a bit of speed through turn 1 and a bit of time through there. You can make it all back up and then some through the middle of the lap. But all the overtaking is going to be on their run out of turn 1 down towards turn 2. Kelvin Van Der Linde now sets the absolute best first sector time of 19.3 seconds, but will the BMW be quick enough through the middle sector? Time will tell. Not much slower than him. Another BMW, Marco Wittmann, like just 0.07 of a second slower. Marco is ahead on the circuit, so he'll cross the line first. Oh, I've had another stoppage out on track as well, in a precarious position, I'm afraid. The Audi there of Marius Sugg. And also Nicky Tim stopped out on track in the luminous yellow T3 Motorsport Lamborghini. Right, Van Der Linde is half a second quicker than Wittmann through the middle sector with a 38.7. But that is half a second slower than the best middle sectors we've seen. Sheldon's best time so far is a 1:32.7, which is about half a second away from Nico Muller. So I think he's going to be somewhere in the mid 1:32s here. There are yellow flags, as you can see, coming out of the final turn. 1:32.44 he does. And that is his best lap of the session, but he stays in third place. However, he's got the gap down to second, to just 69 thousandths of a second now, between Vantor and Van Der Linde. Olsen fourth, Grenier fifth, Auer in sixth place, Feller in seventh in the pits. There is the Lamborghini, as the clock has run down to zero now, of DTM, and the checkered flag has come out. Felipe Ferraga with a late run then, but we haven't seen a great deal from the Ferraris. He's got himself up to 15th place now. Will this be even quicker? 133.56, still 15th place. Was a couple of tenths down on his best lap of the session, and Nick Cassidy only 26th. So Ferraris not yet showing their potential, I would say, by quite some distance, but maybe just working through a couple of things. So both very late out on track though, before they started setting lap times. Kelvin Van Der Linde has backed off the pace, so he's not going to put a late charge in for the top of the times. But still pretty good run there at the end, with that 132.446. So he's kind of joining the pace now of Muller and Vantor. He did have a 0.4 of a second gap over everybody else in the middle of that session, but not so anymore. Nico Muller, Laurens Vantor and Kelvin Van Der Linde will be the top three in the session. So Nico Muller once again up there. Very different circuit to Portimao, but the upgrade kit on the Audi and Team Rosberg seem to be on top of it yet again. Being quick in free practice though, it's very different to being quick in qualifying. And the poor old team at Attempto Racing having to jog the entire length of the pit lane and the pit lane entry to go and find their man's car now, presumably pushing back to the pit box. There they go. It's a long old jog, that. So they'll have to wait before all the cars come off circuit before they're allowed to go and help out. There they are. Catch the breath, boys. That was a long old jog. It's a big long pit lane here. So there you can see the top 12 cars covered by 9 tenths of a second. In 12th place, Philippe Eng got himself into the top half of the field fairly late on. There's another driver that didn't set any lap times for the first 15 or 20 minutes of the session. But Philip, the Austrian driver, back into DTM, got there in the end. So the results of free practice one, 132.24 seconds for Nico Muller. Laurens Vantor just behind him. Both of them were top of the times for quite some time. Kelvin Van Der Linde, Dennis Olsen, Michael Grenier, Lucas Auer in the top 6 as well. Feller, Rast, Engel and Wittmann in the top 10. So René Rast got himself up into 8th place fairly late on in that session. And then in 11th place, he was 6th at one point, David Schumacher. Philippe Eng, as I say, got to 12th. Mirko Bortolotti was in the top 10, but dropped to 13th place at the end, the championship leader, with Maximilian Buch and Felipe Ferraga rounding out the top 15 in free practice one. A second free practice session, which will also be for 45 minutes, will get underway at 3:10 local time, and we'll be on air 5 minutes before that, just after 3 o'clock. Join us then. But for now, from me, Chris Hartley, and the team at the Lausitzring, goodbye for now.